Would you believe it? 13 episodes in the bag. That's right. It's time for the season finale of season one of This Just In. Thank you so much for joining us here on Facebook Live. I'm Marsha Boyce, and of course, gathered here with me tonight, the usual gang. Good evening, guys.
Good
Evening,
evening. What's
Marsha.
up?
I'm good. I hope everybody's good and ready and rearing to go for tonight.
I can't believe that this is the end of season one already. 13 episodes.
13 episodes. Yeah, man. What a ride. What a ride.
Now, before, of course, we have a big recap in store for all of our viewers, so you can stay along with us for this full hour as we recap some of our favorite moments throughout the season. But we couldn't start tonight without, catching up on some of the latest happenings in the sporting world because things are ticking over daily. Tonight, I'm in my maroon, as you can see. Have to start with congratulations to the West Indies team for that first win in the first test by 4 wickets over England. I know Justin doesn't think they should be there, but
No,
they're there and they're doing it.
I feel so weird. I feel like a bit of a hypocrite because, for all these episodes I've been saying they should not be there. And then, obviously as a West Indian fan, then you find yourself rooting. So, should they openly root or not, considering I've been here saying they shouldn't be there. But, well done. A good job, guys. I will say, I'll let you get into before I say what I really want to say, but it was not that huge of a surprise to me. I think I was a bit worried when we were given exactly 200 to win, but I before the actual start of the test match, considering the makeup of the two sides and the history from last test series here in the Caribbean, the surprise the actual result was not a surprise at all, not for me at least, Marshall.
And Neil, then your thoughts on this first test victory? You had Shannon Gabriel being named man of the match, 9 wickets in this game. The captain Jason Holder, 7 wickets, 6 of them coming in the first innings, and then Jermaine Blackwood with that crucial 95 for the West Indies in the second innings, really sealing the deal and taking us to victory.
Well, to be honest, I didn't get to watch a lot of it because I had a lot going on, but it was really nice to hear that the guys won, especially with all the controversy going on around, the COVID and us going over there and stuff like that. So I thought that it it is a good win. It's a good start, especially with Justin thinking that they shouldn't be up there at all. Shouldn't be up there at all. So I still think that it's pretty good that we were able to go up there, get the win, stay focused, and get things done. Um, I am hoping to catch more of the series as it goes, and I hope that the guys can remain safe and healthy and continue their performance, continue their winning
Sorry,
ways.
as you said about winning ways, no Neil. So let me get into quick analysis of why I thought that this is not a surprise. A lot of people obviously were shocked on the initial turnaround when they came here in 2019 and we won that series. And I too was a little bit surprised, but then as I now look at the two teams, and especially the strength of our team, which is clearly that pace attack, that four-prong pace attack, I should no longer be surprised. So I wasn't shocked at the result in England. First thing, I don't want to sound like a homer here, but with a pace attack obviously led by the captain himself, Kemar Roach, Alzari Joseph, and Shannon Gabriel, I believe that is a top three bowling lineup in the world. I put them alongside, just maybe behind India, and with the likes of Australia, South Africa. I'd put that as a top three bowling lineup for certain. I think we all know by now that Jason Holder is a world class cricketer. There's no getting around that. And I go as far as to say that I think we underrate him by just saying he's the world's best all rounder. I think it's now you have to say that. And I think there was a article on ESPN Cricket right before or after the second day, sorry, basically saying that with his stats over the last, I want to say, 2-3 years, Jason Holder has proven to be not only world's best all rounder, but the best first change bowler. And I mean, the numbers are what they are. It's not that Jason can, is not a person that bowls and bats a bit. It is that this guy is what I think he's averaging about 25 with the ball, if I stand corrected. And like, not just a tidy line and left bowler anymore, but a clear wicket taker. Like, I remember, it was 2018, I stand corrected, March 2018, where Jason had that historic year. Yeah, with 2018, and then became our 2019 National Sports Personality of the Year. Like, it was not where the man had a historic season. The man had the best statistical season of any fast bowler in the history of Test cricket. So that just goes to show you how much of a world-class player he is. So I go with that to say, and then it's not just Jason as well. I think Shannon Gabriel is vastly underrated as a wicket taker. And Kemar Roach.
Shannon's problem is between his no ball problem and then his injury concerns, that those things seem to take a shine off of his performances.
And whenever he's gotten it healthy, and we saw again in that series at home last year, and then now he's over that whatever injury concerns, and kind of tidied up the no ball problem to an extent. You see that he is a true wicket taking threat. Sometimes he can go for a bit of runs, but he's a wicket taker, that it is. And I really want to laud the second coming of Kemar Roach. I think he goes by too unnoticed. Like, we knew when he was when he was supposed to be the speedster of the team, but now he's actually the veteran of the lineup. And I think he went wicketless or one wicket the entire match.
But very economical.
Not just economical. I want to say, like, if there was
he essentially set things up. If you think about
like, if there was like, I have never seen Roach in such, releasing the ball well. You can see that he was in rhythm, and he just wasn't getting wickets. And this is not to say that he was not bowling well, but as you said, he tied down and he wasn't giving away runs, and he was troubling and beating the bat. Unlucky not to have gotten wickets here and there, and I think he is the unsung hero now of that bowling lineup. I mean, the stats will say he either got one or no wickets in that Test match, but that doesn't speak to the quality of which Kemar bowls. So that four-prong attack, I know a lot of people called for the spinner Rahkeem Cornwall to play, and initially I thought maybe you take out Blackwood and play Rahkeem Cornwall, but thankfully he didn't, because we saw what happened in the second Test, and I want to get to that. No, we have a very, very strong underrated bowling lineup, but the issues, as we see, the fragility of that top order, 1 through 5. And so I'm glad that we didn't play Cornwall and decided to play with the extra black batsman in Jermaine Black, because what I did not know, Marshall and Neil, a stat was provided during the Test match, and a friend told me this beforehand, I didn't realize. From 6 to 12 in terms of lower order batting, net runs, we are the best lower order. We provide the most runs via our lower order in all of Test cricket. And that, again, speaks to the volume of Captain Jason Holder. And Shane Dowrich seems to have turned the corner. That would have been in and out because, Hetmeyer missed the series over COVID-19 concerns. But, you have Blackwood chipping in with that 95, as you said. Dowrich with the half century in the first innings. Jason Holder actually without Darren Bravo in the lineup. Also not is our best bowler, but in terms of batting average, I think he leads the team in batting average with Darren Bravo out. So then you have Jason Holder. Alzarri Joseph can bat a bit. Like that you have a great four-prong pace attack. A very, very good lower order batting to come behind that fragile top order. But my only concern is how much longer can we hope to achieve success when Craig Bradford struggles? Thankfully, got among the rungs this time. Shea Hope, since that marvelous series in 2017, has been arguably one of the worst batsmen in all of Test cricket. Roston Chase has been a part of that good lower order, but
Dowrich had a half century this match as well.
Dowrich had innings. Right. So now you're relying on Shamara Brooks, who's now new to Test cricket. John Campbell, a bit newish to Test cricket. That top order is going to have to come to the party at some stage if we want to maintain this one love lead and retain the series. My only thing is that I'm not too concerned because their top order is just as bad. When you look, you have Rory Burns, Dom Sidney, Joe Denny has to be dropped.
But the captain Joe Root will come back into the side.
Right. So whenever Joe Root, and right, that's why it also didn't. I'm not surprised that we won that first test. Obviously with Joe Root out, to me that is one of their only class batsmen. I'd put Ben Stokes in that company. Ollie Pope looks a decent and solid cricketer. Early, I think he had the average of just about 41.27 early in his first 8 matches. So he may become something. But getting to that England team, I think it's one of the most overrated teams in all of world cricket, and not just because of my distaste for the Three Lions, but they say that they bat so deep. But when you look at these numbers, I'm like, yeah, but bat deep with what? Like, you have one world-class batsman in Joe Root, a top all-rounder, second best in the world in Ben Stokes. But when you get beyond those two, there is no quality in that batting. And then they opted to leave out from the bowling department. No, I think they made a mistake. They didn't learn from the test series against us last year in leaving out Stuart Broad.
Was it a mistake, or is it a case of hindsight being 2020? But it looks different now. But it was a sound decision to leave out Stuart Broad.
It wasn't a sound decision because they made that error the last series against us. They came up with some excuse about bed bugs in the hotel, which we later found out that was trash, rubbish, whatever you want to call it. They left out Stuart Broad for that first test in Barbados. Lost it terribly. And then you come back and like history repeat itself. Like you leave out Stuart Broad and struggle to take wickets. Like, and I mean, yes, Mark Wood looks nice and fast and all that, nice composed fast bowler, but reality is no. Like I would have sat no Mark Wood for the experience of Stuart Broad, in those English conditions and see what happened there. Like, if anything, learn from what happened in 2019.
There's also that school of thought that the quarantine period actually helped the West Indies, because this is the first time in a long time we've actually been in the home side for longer than, let's say, 2 weeks. So
I think it was a month.
Having just about a month to acclimatize to conditions, etc., really worked in the West Indies' favor. So we'll see what happens for that second test and how things will shape up. But of course, it's all about rallying around the West Indies. And I'm Team Windies. I don't know where Justin sits, but definitely Team Windies right through. So all the best to the guys for that second test match. I'm moving on from... Go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to say, I was Team Windies. I was a diehard Windies fan, and it broke my heart in the middle 2000s. So I think now that I'm part of a sports show, I need to dust off my Windies cap and actually pay attention to some. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Get a heart assessment before you decide to. No,
yes,
seriously, get a heart assessment before you decide to dive right in, and then once your doctor clears you, you're good to go.
Good to go.
Because I'll tell you, as much as it was 4 wickets, Neil, after Jermaine Blackwood's ill-advised...
Even before that, honestly, if we're honest.
Yeah, well before that. But, I mean, we're cruising, and then, you know, I'm like, when I thought that Jermaine Blackwood was over his rash shot making, then again. So, as Marcia said, just get that heart check before, because we don't want to...
I actually drew one since I turned my last birthday. I drew one, so it all ties together.
So, guys, now news coming out of the NBA. Good news or bad news, depending on how you look at it, which side you support. First of all, let's start with Russell Westbrook. Westbrook with the Houston Rockets announcing that he has indeed tested positive for coronavirus, so he won't travel, or he hasn't traveled to the bubble with the team. He'll be under a quarantine/isolation period, and once things clear up, he will be heading to Florida. So first, Neil, I'll start with you. What kind of impact do you think this will have on the Rockets' preparations?
Oh, it would have to me, it's going to have a huge impact on their preparation, obviously, because you have such a dynamic scorer in Russell Westbrook, right? And they make up such a good two-prong attack. We know that James Harden is all world. He is full of points. He can pass the rock. I mean, yes, the turnovers are high, but he can lead your team. But Russell Westbrook was a very good additional punch along with Harden. I mean, if Harden came out, you can have Russell at the point. Both of them can share the ball. Both of them can take over the game. And Justin, I talked about this several times, that considering how the Rockets have molded their team around D'Antoni's philosophy and system, then, he is a very key component in what they're looking to do and in their playoff run. So, I mean, I wish him the best. I hope he comes back soon, but it will hurt them in terms of their preparation for this deep playoff run. I don't know if you guys heard, there's also an assistant coach that he broke quarantine. The report is unintentionally he broke quarantine. He's not the assistant coach. Right. It's not an assistant coach. It's a player. Right, it's a role player. Sorry. He broke protocol, and he has to go into quarantine. They say he's going to be in there for like 10 days or something like that. I think that was a few days ago. So I mean, that's a minor thing, but you can see the impact of COVID in this bubble, this biosecure environment that we like to use. But it's just interesting. This is just another meta as to how teams are going to prepare going into the playoffs. You're going to have players, because James Harden hasn't come yet, and some other key players have not entered into the bubble as yet. So it's going to be very critical to see how all this unfolds and how players test if they can stay in the protocol, and then, of course, how teams can fill the void if any major players test positive.
I think Neil's being kind and diplomatic, Mark. Whole world of trouble. I think according to Westbrook, he was asymptomatic, if memory serves me correct.
Well, he says he's feeling well.
Right, he's feeling well.
Yes.
Whatever, yes. And oddly enough, I was watching ESPN all day today, and Bomani Jones said if there's one guy who knows that could beat coronavirus or anything, is Russell Westbrook. He said who watched him play with a dent in his head. However, I think Bomani Jones is also being a bit, overly facetious, because the reality is, as asymptomatic as he may appear, or he thinks he is, the problem comes, as we know, there have always been reports of long-lasting effects with this virus. And one of the major effects is the condition of your lungs. And the Houston bench, as it is already thin. D'Antoni is not known for playing more than 8-9 players at a time, especially in playoffs, which means big minutes for Westbrook to begin with. We don't know, obviously, how he is going to feel, but if what we have been told about this virus is indeed factual, I'm not sure if Russell Westbrook gets back to 100% ever. And who knows how fast he can get back to being in the NBA shape. We must remember that's
my concern. Yeah, that's my concern.
He's been out already 2 to 3 months not playing. And I mean, we can talk about, how much gym you do, all this gym work, et cetera, over cardio. But there's nothing like playing an actual NBA game. I know your lung capacity may not be at 100% now already with, as I said, with fatigue out of shape NBA body. I believe, even if, for argument's sake, obviously you keep him out 14 days, which is a normal, quarantine period, he now will be missing the team's warm-up training session, has to go right into playoffs. Who knows that if he can go and play playoffs immediately? I think that this is a one and done for the Rockets as it is. And it was already enough pressure for D'Antoni, who was coaching for his job, as we all been told. Yeah, I think this is one and done. I mean, the Houston bench is thin as it is, and Russell Westbrook is such a huge part of your offense. I know you're asking a man who has been out for however long. I know a lung capacity is probably going to be, I don't know, not 100%. They're in trouble.
But Justin, let me ask though. Oh, sorry, I thought you were finished. Sorry.
And then furthermore, I'm not sure if y'all have seen, I heard initially the reports of how certain NBA players have looked in this quarantine time. I'm not sure if you've seen them. Harden looks as small as I do, and that is not a joke. Like,
and so they're saying that the Slim Melo is back.
Slim Melo, Marsha. If you saw Carmelo Anthony, you're not going to recognize him. I mistook, and I'm not kidding you. This is not exaggeration for the purpose of laughing on this show. I mistook Nikola Jokic for Kristaps Porzingis. I literally like.
But Jokic. Like, I ain't gonna lie to you. Jokic had me like, if you did not kind of understand the dynamic and what was happening, just out of context, you saw a picture of me and be like, "Yo, that man looking so good."
Because remember, like, well, the Knicks aren't in this bubble. Like, what's Kristaps Porzingis doing here? And I'm like, wait, no, that's definitely that's Nikola Jokic. Marsha, they look. It is the other way around. We thought that people would be putting on weight.
Yeah.
Nope. Marc Gasol looks like a taller white version of me.
But it's interesting to me, right? Because you mentioned that, right? And that is, to me, I guess I'm echoing what you're saying, but to me, I am wondering how a player like Jokic now is going to play with so much weight loss off his frame, off his body, because he's 7 foot. Obviously, he would need that to do banging. He plays in the post, passes well out of the post. So I'm just wondering if this is going to help or hinder him. Well, he did. I think he did test positive for coronavirus as well. Did. So as you're saying, to me, as you were saying, the lung capacity and the conditioning is something that I am really interested to see. Because, I mean, yes, we would have had players like Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell test positive early on, yeah. Right. But no, how are these players right now? How is their conditioning? And Justin, I wanted to ask you while you were speaking, what do you think, as you said, D'Antoni is coaching for his career, actually, for his job. I know that we have all of this thing going on, these variables. Do you think this would lend the Rockets giving him another chance, another year?
Oh, hell no.
Are you think this is it? And then I have a follow-up question when you're done with that.
Oh, this is it. Like, anything short of a title, like D'Antoni's out through the door. And I don't think that, as much as it's not been said openly, I don't think that's a surprise. That's the worst kept secret in all of the NBA. Like, you don't win a title, you're basically gone. I have been reliably informed that like none of his assistants, their contracts have not been renewed, and all their contracts are up at the end of the season. Like, that is basically telling you, like,
Marsha, you hear my man say he reliably informed.
Reliably, he has the inside scoop.
Yeah, so, yeah. Yes, like, this is our Stephen A. Smith.
And yes, I do. Yes, so I've been reliably informed that none of their contracts have been renewed. So that tells me, like, you don't want D'Antoni, you don't want his system, you don't want his people. Like, they're gone. And now the worst thing that's happened for D'Antoni now is that his second best player has come down with the virus, right before. Interestingly, though, I'll let you go with your second follow-up question here first.
Right. So my second follow-up question is that you, I think, again, I know we talked about this off air, but now that you're kind of now going to be transitioning from your D'Antoni philosophy and system in the offense and small ball and all this here. How easy would it be for them to transition into a more traditional style of basketball in terms of acquiring players, dumping players, that kind of thing?
I think it's easy because you must remember that their two best players are all-stars. One is an MVP and a perennial MVP candidate. So the reality is, like, and these are two players that they don't rely on. At least Russell Westbrook doesn't. And I mean, James Harden's skills are such that he can score from anywhere on the court. So, like, if you're asking, like, how easy will it be to transition, like, look at your two best players, and like they can play any type of basketball you ask them to. It is just obviously that baby role players that you bring around, and like I don't think their role players are any big, long, major contracts. I mean, they got rid of the one in Clint Capella's contract, so like,
yep.
That means that all the other pieces are easily moved. So yeah, like, because your two players are like all NBA type players, a transition would be very easy. Maybe that's because, you have to remember when D'Antoni basically put the ball in James Harden's hands and had him as a de facto point guard and just running high pick and rolls every single possession. remember that was not what James Harden did before that. And he said, like, when D'Antoni first came to him and said, I can make you into a more high-scoring Steve Nash, who leads the league in scoring and assists. Like, Harden's asking, is this man crazy? And then we saw what happened. So it's a matter that James Harden is so skilled. And I want to say, and this is going to sound blasphemous, Neil Hoyt, but I want to say with him and Kyrie Irving particularly, I think, I'm not afraid to say these things on the show.
Go ahead,
Kyrie Irving, for me, is the most skilled basketball player offensively I've ever seen watching my basketball league. I mean, just offensively.
So say what you just said again. Say what you're going to say again.
Kyrie Irving is the most skilled basketballer offensively I have ever seen in my so for somebody that plays below the rim, that I've ever seen in my entire time watching basketball. And I think James Harden is not too far behind that, because for Kyrie, he does everything offensively either at a very good to elite level. There's nothing offensively he does not do.
And just to be clear, you're speaking under the ring. We're not speaking
under players that play under the ring. And okay. James Harden, in terms of skill wise, is around that. Like he could shoot the three at a higher percentage, but I mean, he takes so many, so that percentage.
Volume of them.
All right, the volume shooting. So like the skills are, to answer your question, then the skill set of those two players allow for the Houston Rockets an easy transition to another system. I wanted, though, touching on Westbrook coming down the virus before the bubble. I wanted to see, let me phrase that better. I wanted to see somebody get the virus, but I wanted to see how the bubble would have been tested with an actual positive test within the bubble, because I don't think that this impacts it, because obviously like he's been outside the bubble, you can quarantine him, and then wait having to have 2 or 3 successive negative tests before you let him in the bubble. But I'm waiting to see what happens if somebody is tested positive within the bubble setting. How does that impact everything? Like, thankfully for the NBA, not for the Rockets, of course, but thankfully for the NBA, Russell's case came outside and just before he and James Harden were set to travel to Orlando.
And guys, the media is also arriving. They're under quarantine for 7 days because unlike most of the players, they wouldn't have been having that regular testing before. So they're under a 7-day quarantine. But some bad news if you're a Lakers fan, unfortunately new. Rajon Rondo being hurt. It was reported today. Rondo and that troublesome right hand injured again. Neil, what does this do to the Lakers?
And he's out 6 to 8 weeks too, Neil.
Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks.
I am very well aware of Rondo's injury. Well, what can I say here? I mean,
not much apparently.
Well, it's a rough goings. I mean, and the thing that kind of, so I don't want to come over as a person speaking from a place of privilege as a fan, right? We've had success over the years, and we were looking really good going up until this pandemic. But it just seems as though, while every other team could possibly benefit from having this long layoff and having this pandemic to kind of readjust, reset their mind, body, and spirit for basketball, it just seems that the Lakers, we just need to find a way to just get ourselves and shoot ourselves in the foot, right? I mean, from Dwight Howard say he may not.
Championship story even more interesting. Look at it that way. You're building that narrative of overcoming all obstacles.
Yeah, I hope in the 30 for 30 will be really great. But the truth of the matter is, I mean, with Rondo out, what you're missing. One thing I was touting the entire season was we have that playoff finals winner mentality and veteran leadership, right? From many players. We have JaVale McGee, we have LeBron James, of course, we have Rajon Rondo, we have other players that would have had playoff success. So I was thinking that even though we would have missed a player like Avery Bradley and J.R. Smith, who is not as focused, I'm not going to say skilled, I'm going to say focused as Avery Bradley would be, he does bring a level of experience within the context of deep playoff run. Unfortunately, now we've lost one of our leaders, and the thing about it is I really love Rondo as a floor general. Granted, he's lost a step and he is not as potent as he was before, but he still knows how to run the floor when he's on there for a limited amount of time, and he does know how to get players involved. It's just one of those things, man. As you guys are saying, it will tell a good story for us. I am not sure how they're going to handle it. I maybe they're going to have to rely a bit more on players like Caruso and KCP, Caldwell Pope, to kind of handle some of that duty. Or LeBron may just do LeBron things and play 50 minutes a game. So, I mean, it bums me out as a fan, but as Justin was alluded to earlier, I do find it interesting how this adds a new meta into the season, right? So Justin was talking about how players are tested and how they operate within the protocols and people breaking the protocols, all these things. I'm interested to see with players now getting injured at such a late stage. And this is not COVID related. This is just a basketball related, right? So you can't call up anybody or you can't do anything right now. So it's just going to be interesting to see how teams adjust. And I would say that even though losing Rondo is a huge problem for the Lakers, other teams are going to be dealing with their own meta games within their organizations, whether it be COVID, whether it be restrictions. We've been seeing how players are eating or being fed in the biosecure environment. And a lot of people say there's a lot left to be desired. So it's just a whole lot of things that is interesting. So I'm not 100% bummed out that Rondo is not going to be there, along with Avery Bradley. I actually see it as, it's just another thing in a very unique 2020 basketball season.
You know what?
Justin, before you
go ahead, Marsha.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
You know what you should be seeing it as, Neil? As a blessing. Count your blessings that Rajon Rondo is out 6 to 8 weeks. You didn't see this coming, Neil. This is one of the best things that happened to you. Unfortunately, well, other than the news, obviously that everybody was out. which is terrible. This is a blessing for you, I'm not sure what everybody thought this Rajon Rondo was and whether or not. Sure, let's give him the positive side. I think he's second on your team in assists with 5 assists per game. Obviously,
and he does turn up in playoffs, huh?
Yes, there's this myth about this playoff Rondo I hate to hear. But anyway, playoff Rondo.
It's a myth, but we've seen it before, Justin. So is it really a myth?
We haven't seen it in 3-4 seasons. But anyway, yes,
we've seen it before. We know it's there.
Yeah, so we know it's there. You know what else is there? That Rajon Rondo by net plus minus is the 238th ranked player in the NBA.
I know you're going to do that.
Minus 0.67. Rajon Rondo,
injuries.
When he comes on the court, granted he's not playing with starters and whatever not, is a minus 0.67 when he comes on the court.
A minus 0.60. That's what you're doing? You giving me fractions now?
Yeah, I'm giving you fractions. You know why? Because the player that should be playing his minutes is 63rd. The 63rd best player in the league as it comes to net plus minus. Do you know who that is? Alex Caruso has a positive plus minus of 1.58. Furthermore, Neil, I'm going to hit you with a stat that you did not know, and most Laker fans actually do. That's going to shock you. Do you know the two players combined that have the best net rating in terms of plus minus in the entire league? Who do you think that is?
Tell us. Just tell us.
LeBron James.
But I heard this though.
LeBron James and Alex Caruso. Would you believe?
Right.
LeBron James and Alex Caruso have a plus minus that leads the league with a plus 20.8. And I say that to say, what the hell was I'm missing names now. Oh my gosh. What the hell was your coach doing all along playing Rondo, these big minutes?
Frank
Vogel. When it's clear to the entire world, me included, that Alex Caruso, just not by stats alone, to the untrained eye, is a better player than Rajon Rondo right now. And not just a better. Hold on, Neil. Not just a better player.
Yeah, go ahead. Mm.
Not just a better player, Neil. A better player to play alongside LeBron James. What do we continue to say about playing alongside LeBron James? That the floor needs to be spaced and you have to be able to shoot the ball or at least be a threat to shoot the ball. Alex Caruso not only is plus minus is so fantastic, he shoots an above average 36% from behind the three-point line. This is the man you want playing. Now, granted, a lot of people will say, but what happens when LeBron James goes? You want that playmaker when LeBron James, goes off the field, and that's what Rajon Rondo is there. Hold on. This is no longer the regular season, Neil. This is the postseason. And by that, I say LeBron James isn't going to be playing 35 minutes now. It is 43 minutes plus, which means that it is not you need a replacement for LeBron James. You need somebody to play alongside him. You need somebody to be able to shoot that rock, get up and down in transition, finish at the ring. All three of these is Alex Caruso, and none of those three are Rajon Rondo. This hold on a minute. A blessing in disguise for you, Neil Hoyt.
So I agree with you, right? Don't get me wrong. It is the postseason, and you want your best players out there, especially with a player like LeBron James, right? And Alex Caruso has shown within the last season that he can, last half season, 2/3 of a season, that he is playing really, really, really well. It's just for me. I don't know what Alex Caruso looks like when the lights are the brightest. I do not know what he looks like in a Western Conference Finals. I don't know what he looks like in a finals.
But at least there'll be nobody in the stands, so.
Well, we could be watching at home.
It will be broadcast to millions.
That's what I say.
No, yeah. Right, but I mean, you're not.
In terms of the environment, won't be as pressured.
Yeah, you won't have to worry about him not performing on the road. Like, guess what?
And that's the point. And that's the point I'm trying to make, right? The metagame, as much as if this were a normal season and Rajon Rondo went down, I'd be saying, Rondo gone down. He's veteran leadership. He would know how to handle pressure late in games on the road in the Western Conference Finals or in the finals. He would know how to mitigate that pressure and know when and where to give players the ball. But the metagame of everyone being in one location and there not being any fans in the arena, to me, it doesn't. It's not all doom and gloom for me. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think that had it been a normal season, I would have been like, oh my God, granted, Rajon Rondo is not what he used to be. And as you brought your stats, you are right. If you look at the overall plus minus, he is not fantastic. But I still like the fact that we had a player of his caliber in terms of experience and IQ being going for a deep playoff run. So it's one of those things. I mean, I trust Alex Caruso. He plays hard. He plays like so. He does what you need to do in terms of defense, offense, and everything like that for someone that is coming off the bench. So I don't mind Alex Caruso absorbing those minutes and making the most of those things, and Frank Vogel trusting him to do it. I am just kind of worried about if you are playing against the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals and it is late in the fourth quarter and the series is either tied at 2-2 or it's a 3-2 deficit to the Lakers, how will Alex Caruso respond to that? And I am not too worried because the environment is not as hostile as it would have been if things were normal.
Hopefully things won't get any worse. Justin, you wanted to add something?
No.
Hopefully things don't get any worse for the players, because remember there are also predictions that after a long layoff, the players are more susceptible to ACL injuries in particular, which we saw in the season that started late because of the lockout. So
2011 season.
2011, yes. So hopefully, players, it's a catch-22 situation where you want to leave everything on the court, but you will be more susceptible to injuries, particularly after such a long layoff. So hopefully injuries then aren't the major talking points coming out of these NBA playoffs.
I think it's going to be almost, I'm glad you brought it up quickly. I think it's going to be impossible to avoid them because not only is a long layoff, but unlike the 2011 season, just remember they just had a shortened season and they went into the regular season. You are asking players now to come back from such a long layoff and go directly into high pressure games where everybody's going to be giving it their all. There's like 8 regular season games where a lot of teams will be jostling for position and then straight into playoffs. So essentially all of these games are going to serve as playoff games. Like you're going to see a rash of ACL, hamstring injuries. A ton of ligament damage is going to be done. I just don't think there's any avoiding it.
We will see how this one plays out. And just two quick notes before we move into the second half of our show, where we recap what has been season one of this Just In. Some news also coming out today. The Washington NFL franchise finally confirming, you know what, we will indeed retire that name, that nickname, that moniker. You know, good news for a lot of people who've been clamoring for it for a while now. And then I'll just move to this one quickly. In the English Premier League, nobody seems to want that
Quickly, why so
place
quickly, Mark?
Champions League.
Quick?
Just quickly, because we have other things that we'd like to get onto.
For sure.
So we had a situation where Manchester United could have gone third in the standings today, but unfortunately, they drop points against Southampton. A late goal coming in like the 8th minute of injury time, like the 98th or 99th minute. So as it stands then, you know, Liverpool, they're off and running. Manchester City, they're still in the running because, good for them, they won their CAS appeal against the European ban for flouting financial fair play rules. So City will indeed be in European competition, and they had their fine reduced from 30 million down to 10 million. $10 million is nothing for a group like the City Group.
$30 million is nothing.
You see it? So that's a whole other conversation for another time. So as it stands, Liverpool in the top spot, City in second place, Chelsea, they currently hold on to third place, 60 points. Leicester and Manchester United on 59 points. Leicester getting that nod by goal difference. A couple games left in the season, so we'll see how it goes. But nobody seems to want this fourth place. I want to say that I'm holding out hope, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. But guys,
speak so quickly yet.
Because now we want to get into the second half of our show, where we take time and first of all thank all of our viewers for joining us for the past 13 weeks for what has been this Just In. You know, this started, and Justin will, you know, get a little bit more into that in terms of the genesis of this idea as we look back at what has been some of our most memorable moments. We've had some fantastic guests. We've had some fantastic discussions. So Justin, I'll start with you, you know. Starting from your idea, you know, hey, let's do this thing, to what has happened over the past 13 weeks and what has been your most memorable moments so far?
Actually getting the 6 guests on. You know, you'd figure it as some actual moment during the shows. And there have been a lot of pleasant moments, a lot of laughable. I mean, I still remember the first guest we had, ESPN college basketball analyst Richie Schuler, and his closing point, you know, saying, give it a shout out to a person who's gone back in that industry partly, right? So I won't leave that nameless, but yeah, I will never forget that moment. But it's not the actual moments during the show. It is, you know, to see the response to the guests when they actually message or call them. Like, they're all, you would figure that they're so busy, and because they're like high profile guests that you have from an NBA general manager and James Jones, as I said just now, ESPN college basketball analyst and Richie Schuler, an assistant coach for the Houston Rockets, Devin Blair, tournament director for the Rogers Cup, that's tennis, and Carl Hill. Like, you know, he was just in the midst or just finished having to, you know, cancel this year's tournament. And even though, you know, during their hectic or busy schedules, they still not only found the time to come on the show, but, you know, y'all would not have been there when they actually initially made, you know, contact with them. But they were so eager to come on. They were like, you know, yeah, sure, just give me a time, date, and place. And, you know, to see their willingness to come and talk sports, that speaks to the, you know, the level of guests that they are. Like, you know, they don't just do what they do, but they love what they do, and they love to talk sports and inform people. So I can't thank them enough. As I said, from Richie Schuler to James Jones, Devin Blair, Carl Hill, Craig Skilling, Darian King. I don't think I've forgotten anyone. Like, each and every one of those actual interviews, there's a special. I remember at least laughing once in those interviews and taking something away. And if someone like me is taking something away, can you only imagine, like, you know, some of our viewers having that same feeling. So, like, as I said, it was just the actual interaction with the guests before they come on the show, their willingness to come and speak. And there are more to come, season 2, because, like, don't go anywhere, people. We have a season 2 coming in 2 weeks. The same space, the same time, the same back channel, as people would say. But yeah, they're so eager and willing to come, and that is what shocked me. I figured, they would say, sorry, Justin, it's a bit harsh, a bit, time consuming. And we do have a special guest coming up who has told me that his time, is a bit rough. But then he's the person who then suggested, well, why not at the end of this month or the start of August? And like, well, we didn't think that you'd have this time for this. So to see the response, the guest has been, the biggest heartwarming point for me.
And what about you, Neil? 13 weeks, what have been some of the most memorable moments for you?
Well, I mean, there's so many, right? First things first, I know as much as, I don't want to get too cliche or to get too sentimental.
No, go right
ahead. I want to thank the space. All right, fair enough. Well, I want to thank Justin for reaching out to me to do this. This is something that we've always talked about, and we've even tried in different incarnations to do. And, it's funny because Justin and I are close friends, right? And this is outside of the show. And, life happens. Justin and I have children. We go about our lives. We're very ambitious in our field. So we're, hustling and bustling and going about our business. And the one thing that brought us together was basketball. And over the years, as we've gotten older and gotten out of basketball, we would have kind of lost communication. Not saying that we had any beef or anything like that, but, you just lose touch. And since we've started about this show, Justin and I we're communicating more. We're having conversations a bit more. Obviously, the genesis would be because of this show, but we end up talking about life and stuff like that, which we used to do back in the day. So I'm grateful for that. I think that favorite moments for me would have been, I really did enjoy The Last Dance. I enjoyed covering The Last Dance, right? And as much as I tease Justin and say that he is a crackpot, he is a conspiracy theorist, and he's crazy and everything like that, I do enjoy our debates. Sometimes it can be infuriating just because of the way he argues, but I do enjoy getting it.
I actually forgot The Last Dance. And that was
that was so long ago. That was so long ago. But but it's always a pleasure to speak with Justin on sports. It's always very entertaining to argue sports with him, and I keep telling Justin, we really should do more of that so people can just see how our personalities clash when it comes to thinking and going about certain things. And one of the things we were actually saying on this show is that we were going to clash a lot, right? A lot of our friends too were saying, yeah, boy, that's going to be action. And we found ourselves agreeing a lot on this show. So, I mean...
Too much, really. So, yeah.
Don't worry. Yeah, for sure.
Season 2.
Yeah, so season 2 for sure. But in terms of memories, man, I kind of enjoyed it, right? It was interesting to have conversations with certain guests. James Jones being a highlight of mine. I enjoyed the Carl Hill interview. I enjoyed Devin Blair. I have enjoyed all of our guests. It just shows me not only how down to earth they are, because behind these scenes, Richie had us cracking up, but also to show how human they are in this pandemic, right? Like, this was kind of born out of the pandemic and us having our thoughts and ambitions as it pertains to media and sports and entertainment. So it's just interesting to see just how everyone is so affected by this pandemic, indirectly and directly, and then also to see how people are just checking on each other, like with a lot of our guests, instead of it Mr. So-and-so or whatever, it was more, how are you doing? How is it going in your area? How are you guys dealing with it on the island or in your city or anything like that? So I think the human element of it, whether it be for us as the team and the guests that we've had to interact with, and even our audience, our fans, with the mailbags, we've had some pretty good conversations. And I love this space. That's all I can say. I have good memories, and I'm really enjoying this space.
I think I
What
would
about you,
agree
Marcia?
with the. I think I would agree with two of you. First of all, let's start with you make the most of what you have, or they say sometimes you never let a good crisis go to waste. And I think as bad as the situation was and currently is with coronavirus and COVID-19 across the world, the opportunity to birth this program came out of that, and the accessibility of our guests was as a direct result of coronavirus as well. So we were able then through technology, etc., to reach out to these different pros in their respective fields and bring them into our various households, to our smartphones, etc. And the videos are there to be watched on YouTube and so forth. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a sports fan, but I am also a student of sport. Like I would literally go back to school and study sport every day, all day. Because I just generally find it intriguing. So for me, each of our guests brought something different and some new considerations, some behind the scenes, a different look, whether it is at the on-court aspect, like Devin brought with, the heavy emphasis on analytics and stats and that kind of stuff, or the business side of things, which we got from Craig and James. For me, James was a highlight simply because I remember interviewing James many moons ago when he first came here for his basketball camp as a Miami Heat player. And here we are now, somewhat more than 8, boy. It's almost 10 years, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes, almost. Yeah,
but,
no, it would have to be
6 years, 2014.
No, it's more than 6. No, it's not 2014 because it was when LeBron James signed with.
Yes, so that's like 2009 then.
2010, so it's 10 years.
10,
2010.
Yeah. 10
yeah, it's about 10 years.
I'm getting old, but right here in Barbados at the Hilton Hotel, we had that sit-down interview talking about his camp and different things he's looking to do, and then come full circle, you're having a conversation, sitting down in my room, and he's over there with an NBA general manager. So for me, that was, like this is what we're doing now. Okay, no problem.
Like color moment, right?
So for me, and getting that insight, especially from Craig, who looked at, the future of sport and entertainment and so forth, Richie giving us that background between, the media and how exactly the media was impacted by COVID-19, whether you were a freelancer, broadcaster, etc. Then Carl and just that inside look at the Rogers Cup, as well as for me, what stood out, the importance of the Rogers Cup to the development of tennis in Canada, period, as that is their major funding arm for the entire association. And of course, Darian is always a pleasure to talk to, and I'm very glad. I'm looking forward to seeing him getting back on the court later on this season, fingers crossed, hopefully. So for me, it was a really good season watching you guys battle it out over the last dance and whether Michael Jordan retired or not. I mean, we could go on and on and on.
I actually forgot about that, to be honest.
I don't know how.
It was so many months ago.
It feels like it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yet still the 13 weeks went relatively quickly. So it's one of those weird positions to be in.
Like I don't want to single out anyone interview, and I just can't because like I can remember moments from each and every one. I mean, there was one part that was like I pop in, as you said, because Marcia is more like a off-field person. Like she loves the business of sports,
office side of things. Yes.
And while me and Neil are more on-court people. So like when I heard Devin Blair, when he was talking, I still remember it to the day when he said they brought in Jason Terry for shoot around.
Yeah.
And he let like 475 or 500. To this day, I speak about that. Like every time I go to basketball court, I talk about that. Like, how are you hitting 475 of 500 shots? And then he went and broke down the analytics of how Barbados would have won the Caribbean tournament under his method, or it's a possibility.
Yeah.
So initially, he said what he said, so I was just waiting to hear his defense. And then when he brought down the analytics, I was like, this thing could actually work. And then, as you know, like you mentioned it just now, Marcia, having spoken to James 10 years ago as a player, and then to see how, and I mean, he's the same person. Like, he still has the same mannerisms, still saying down to earth and very, reserved and very well thought, well spoken in his words. But then obviously you see him on the other side now, speaking from the general manager role. So it was just, a bit weird that, you spoke to this guy in this position. Now you're speaking to the exact same guy, but, his words are a bit different now because of the role that he serves. So hearing him, and then he spoke about a whole multitude of things, from his time as a player, his relationship with LeBron James, his time with the Heat, and then what this COVID-19 situation heading into the bubble. There's just so much, we got a chance to actually hear from an NBA general manager their plans to head into that bubble scenario on what the actual challenges would be. And then we caught him at a time when social unrest was at its highest in the United States. So then we got to hear from...
That's another highlight for me, speaking on those injustices. Well, go ahead.
So hearing him speak, his... And I don't want to single him out, but the varying topics from, him as a player to all the way to social unrest, that was an awesome interview. And everyone else, I didn't expect Carl Hill to give me the information that we got. We also got a multitude of things, and it was just, I previously didn't know, and I guess that's a shame on me, that Rogers Cup was such a huge funding arm for Canadian tennis, and that he had such a personal relationship and a seen development of from Eugene Bouchard to Denis Shapovalov, Milos Raonic. I'm missing out so many Canadian players right now because I'm just thinking of all the moments that we've had. As you mentioned, Craig was telling us about the future of esports, that is the space.
Yeah.
I said I'm leaving out people, but I don't want to, because all of the interviews we did were so informative, gave me a deeper insight to understanding of things that you'd only hear about or stuff, and then we got stories. It's been great.
So guys, then as we wrap up tonight, Justin, I'll probably let you do the takeaway leading into next season. Just give us a taste, emphasis on taste, emphasis on small taste on what we can look out for in season 2.
You're telling me a small taste, but I want to tell emphasis on small. I just want to tell the fans, first, that I know both Marsha and Neil did it, but I want to thank you all for being here, staying with us late at night on Mondays and Thursdays, especially if we have a thing of rambling on. Marsha complains about it often, but we go on 2-3 hours at a time. So I just want to thank you all first and foremost. Without you all, that there's no reason to do this. Reality, if it's just 3 of us talking to each other, we can just pick up the phone and do that without this space. I don't know how to keep it small. We're tearing down everything. We're tearing it down and building it back. And this is not to say that anything was wrong with what we're doing. But like everything else, things have to grow, things have to change. It's a metamorphosis. So what you saw in season 1 is there's a slogan I put out there, what you think of this, Justin, forget that. We're changing, we're growing into season 2. So we're pulling it all down. Whatever you can think of will be changed. I'm not your host. No, we're bringing back Marsha and Neil. So no worries with that.
Neil, we get to keep our jobs.
Yes. Job security in these times. Yes.
Job security in these times, like you say, it's very crucial. But seriously, everything from what we could think of. I won't give away anything at all, but we're stripping it down and coming back bigger and better. Not to sound cliche, but bigger and better for season 2. And even the guests, we're going to come bigger. And thanks to the guests that we had before. And hopefully a lot of them have told me, they can't wait to come back. But we're coming bigger and better with everyone. I hope to get back each and every of the, I think they've all confirmed already, each of the 6 from before that they'll be coming back. If I talk more, I'm going to reveal things that I know Marsha
I'm going to stop you right there.
Right.
Yeah, Renee, your prime analyst there.
I'm so enthusiastic. So I just want to let everyone know, there is a brief break because with tearing it down, obviously there's going to come time that we're going to have to build it back up. And not too long, just a week. So you won't see it in space next week. Monday, this Thursday, we will have, me and Neil, as usual, we'll have the mailbag on the IG live show. But after that, there will be a week break and you will see some teasers with an eventual reveal by that weekend, I think, of everything that is to come, everything that's changed. So it's just a week break. So stick with us. We haven't gone anywhere, but I am really excited. I'm not sure if you can tell, but yeah, I am really excited for season 2.
Yeah, we're excited too, Justin. We're excited too, yeah.
So guys, then thank you so much for joining us for our first season of This Just In. As Justin said, we'll be taking that 1 week break. Virtual high five, social distancing. So you can be sure to follow us though. There's still lots to see and lots to hear on our various social media platforms. So just to give you those very specific details, on Twitter, you can find us at This Just In and the number 1. So that's at This Just In and the number 1 on Twitter. On Facebook, of course, you're here watching us. That is at This Just In Podcast. One word, at This Just In Podcast. Of course, on Instagram, at This Just, the number 1 and then the letter N. So you substitute that second I for number 1 in at This Just In. And of course, on YouTube, hashtag This Just In. If you want to get into contact with us, we also have an official email address. That's thisjustin.group@gmail.com. So if it is that you're interested in partnering with us, if you like our content and you want to share your comments, you want to share any suggestions, you can drop us an email at thisjustin.group@gmail.com. Or of course, you can reach out to us on any of our various social media platforms. So we'll keep your eyes peeled for those teasers, for any recaps of season 1. But we want to thank you so much for being on this journey with us. It has been 13 weeks and counting. We'll take that short break and we'll be right back with you, bang on for season 2, ready and rearing to go. That's it from us for tonight. I'm Marsha Boyce.
I am Justin Marvel.
And I'm Neil Hoy.
No, just Justin. I think that's my Instagram handle, is it?
Yes, that's right. Indeed it is. And this has been our first season of This Just In. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again in season 2. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.